Hello. Welcome back to everyone's favorite MMA podcast, The Couch Casuals. I am your host, Kyle DiOrio, and this is my beautiful co-host.
Robert Dylan Vasquez, what's up, guys?
We are here to talk your ears off about some MMA. We have a great card we're gonna cover that we talked about last week and shit on, and we're mostly right, I believe.
Now, Kyle, you said MMA news, right? We're here to bring them all of the MMA news, right?
we Yeah, we're gonna bring all the news minus
Ugh.
one major piece of news. We just don't feel like that's what we're here to talk about. If you know, you know. If you don't know,
You're not gonna
you're not going to find out from us because we're not talking about it. We're
find
not
out.
touching that subject.
Find out in the public courts.
Yeah, we'll find out.
There's usually a slew of news. There's usually a gang of news, but it's been a little slow in the week of MMA, huh?
Yeah, you could say that.
Proceed.
Mine is the one massive whale. There really is not a ton of news to cover. We're going to talk about the pay-per-view. We're going to give our thoughts, and we're gonna close out with the meme of the week as we normally do. We're going to be a nice short show here this morning. Maybe you can listen on your drive home one day. I don't know.
That poor mascot. Um, what card are you talking about, Kyle?
We are talking about UFC 289, the greatest card that's ever been assembled.
This past weekend,
Is
right?
Yeah, last Saturday.
Because,
Is that joke run its course?
that it's the greatest pay-per-view, that it's the biggest show that the UFC could possibly put on, that it is the entertaining or the most entertaining spectacle, match, fight that the UFC could possibly put on. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
We've been wrong before. And
we weren't today.
So this is the card Kyle's talking about. This is the card that we went over last week, Nunes versus Aldana, with the co-main, which is really the people's main, Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. Let's start at the beginning of this card. What were your true thoughts? You're sitting down. It's 10 p.m. John Anik, out of pocket, is leading you in to the pay-per-view. Now, can I ask you this before I just ask you a question? Can I ask you a side note?
Yeah.
Did you buy this?
I couldn't, dude. I couldn't spend money on this.
Okay.
I've bought so many pay-per-views.
We saw it. We're not going to disclose how we saw it.
We saw it.
But
we saw the pay-per-view.
I'm in the same boat with you.
Didn't pay for this one.
No.
Honestly, like, for casuals, our analysis last week was pretty spot on.
I believe you got all of your picks correct.
All my picks were correct. I did get the decision type right in one of them.
Mm-hmm.
The way we broke down all the fights was pretty accurate. We'll start with Barry Alt and Eric Anders.
Yeah, boy.
Which was a very decent, it's a solid fight. It wasn't nothing. It wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing. It was a good fight.
It was a good fight where there was a little bang bang, there was a little boom boom, there was a little bop bop.
It was a good fight, you know. What does this do for either of the fighters, though?
Well, it was just a chance to shine for Barry Alt in front of his home.
His home. That's right. That's true. He's a Canadian, so I forgot about that. I didn't realize Mallet was also Canadian. Later in the card.
Canadian parlay. They all won.
So Canada got their winners. But as far as this fight is concerned, really not a ton to talk about, in my opinion. Was there anything noticeable or memorable that you had? Like, he won. It was a good fight.
Anders' nose, I believe, was shattered, if not broken, if not punched a lot during the fight, and his
Yeah,
cardio never waned. That's what I remember.
that was impressive. He did go the full 3 rounds. See if there's any images of his nose. I'll look at it later, but it he took a pretty good beating.
It was just
Significant strikes were 95 to 83, so it was really pretty even.
yeah.
Anders was 1 for 11 on takedown attempts.
That's what bothered me. Is he? You have to be a dog. You have to keep fighting for the takedown. But as a coach, as soon as my guy gets to that 7th or 8th, maybe even 5th or 6th, we're gonna set it
Yeah,
up
we
with something
gotta
else. We're gonna not stop trying to take down. This is
we
a
gotta do
casual.
something new.
This is a casual, not a coach. We have to set it up with something else because
We have to do something a little different.
he's clinching him. He's clinching him against the cage, and I'm falling asleep at 10 o'clock. It's 10:05. Both of the fighters are in the cage, and I'm already falling asleep. So what are you doing? Don't clinch if you don't have to. And if you're gonna clinch, get the takedown or do some dirty boxing. And so Barry Alt was just, when it came to the stand up, the range, it was just a second faster. He dropped him in the first. I believe it was the first. Dropped him in the first, and I knew like, okay, if he doesn't set things up better, this is gonna go on all night. And it did. What, 3
Yeah,
rounds?
it was a decision. Um, yeah, Barry Alt looked really good. Looked like the better fighter,
Mm-hmm.
and he won.
Which, a long time ago, I'll touch on this shortly, Nick Diaz fought GSP. And that was a very, very, very important fight. And it happened in Canada. And then Nick talked about how bad the weight cut was. There was something in his water. There was something in his IV.
Yeah, I remember that.
They poisoned him or something like that. I don't feel like the Canadians in general are that kind of, or they're not those kind of people.
I don't think so.
But when it comes to a fighter that's Canadian, fighting in his home country, his home city, his own town, whatever you want to call it, if you're fighting against that guy, man, I'm bringing my own food. I'm
You gotta be careful.
all my homies are getting the hotel rooms next to me. Like you don't know. Like it doesn't have to be.
You don't know. It could be like one slimy hotel. Uh, what is they bring up food to the room or whatever,
Food service.
and he's just like, you know what? I'm gonna drop this little deuce in this meal or something. Like one person could ruin it, and it's not even a grand conspiracy. It's just one piece of shit that might.
One really, really excited Canadian or one really Canadian. And it doesn't even have to be on that level. It could be on the level of disrupting sleep, disrupting this, or anything to give their guy the advantage. I'm not calling the Canadians cheaters. I'm not.
No.
But I would not like to fight in Canada against a fellow Canadian. And
would you fight in Brazil against a Brazilian? That's terrifying.
They're even more in your face with it.
That's terrifying.
Ooh, vamos here. Like, you're going to die, bro. And then in the back locker room, they're like pulling a truck and backing it up so the exhaust gets into your locker room. I know what happened to Brendan Schaub. But that being said, I don't think the Canadians are cheaters. I just think that foul play knows no bounds. Are you on? Are you
Yeah.
You good with this one?
I'm good.
Let's fucking go on the 50K Ige.
50K Ige put on a pretty good performance Saturday night. It was a decision, but he dropped Nate a few times. Nate wasn't on the level of Danny Ige, and I think that was expected. This was Nate's chance to prove he's on that level, to prove he could be a top 15 fighter, and he's just not quite there. He's an older guy. I don't know if he'll ever get there now. It was his chance. He's entertaining. He deserves to, still be on the roster, obviously. Headline some fight nights. Put him in there with some dogs that are sub 15 ranked and put on a good show. But Danny Ige just looked way too good for him
Mm-hmm.
in that fight. Would you agree?
I feel like there are levels, and I feel like this is the closest that Nate would ever get without beating a stronger opponent. And I don't mean stronger physically. I just mean like in the rankings,
Yeah.
a more highly ranked opponent. I will agree with you that he didn't go anywhere. He was in the fight pretty much the whole
He's in the
time.
fight the whole time,
And
but he just didn't have it
that's
for
just
him.
a dude that you need to be weary about and you need to be worried about at all times. And so Ige did a very good job. Did you hear about the size of his paws? John Anik said
This,
he's got some big big
oh,
meaty paws, dude.
dude, John Anik killed it.
So out of pocket.
Killed it
Okay.
Saturday.
Okay.
Well, we'll get to that later too.
Um, but no, I liked the Ige fight for Nate. Nate the
It made a
Train.
lot of sense.
But what didn't make sense is the lack of game plan that these guys go in there with. I'm trying to be as casual as possible because this is the Couch Casuals, but I'm really not trying to make enemies here. You have to have a plan from A to Z. I never say that. I usually say Z, but like A to Z. What is your B, C, and D? Like I can tell when a guy has one shot or one game plan,
Yeah.
or I've been working on this the
Sometimes
whole
it's
camp.
really obvious.
This is how I'm gonna get him. Dan Ige is very, very good. So you better be on your P's and Q's. You better cross your T's
Very
and
good.
dot your I's. I just feel like it's going to be a lot of fun fights for Nate coming up because that's all there is. He's going to fight. Will you bring up the rankings for me? It was 145,
Yeah,
right?
that's actually what I was looking for now. So let's Google that real quick. You see 145 men ranking.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we'll look at the bottom of the top 15 if this page will load for me. Goodness. Here we go. All right. So Dan Ige is 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So under him in the top 15 are Edson Barboza and Alex Caceres. I may have
Caceres, yeah.
messed that up.
Bruce Leroy.
Bruce Leroy, yep. Above Dan Ige, you got Bryce Mitchell. I don't think Nate could beat Bryce Mitchell. Super Sodic Yusuf. I don't think Nate could beat him. Giga Chikadze. Don't think Nate could beat him.
Giga. I mean, you're talking about. I don't want to say like wrestlefuckers. You're talking about.
Well, Giga's definitely not a wrestlefucker.
More like tacticians. You're talking about
Yeah.
when you get higher than Dan Ige, the Rob Fonts of the world, the Giga Chikadzes. You're talking about people that would piece Nate up. I'd argue a little better than Dan did.
Probably. Like everyone above Dan is above Dan for a reason. He's very good, but he's not one of those top 10 guys. Not right now. He could, maybe he becomes one. I don't want to say that, but these guys above Dan, this was the perfect entrance to the top 15 fight for Nate.
The most momentum that he's ever had.
It made so much sense to put this fight in because Nate's this big up and coming star.
Mm-hmm.
Put him in there. Can he break into the top 10, 15? No. I'm trying to look into the rankings to see what would be just a fun fight to see him take.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I guess anybody not ranked would be fun to see, but there's no names that are really jumping out to me.
But regardless, Nate the Train Landwehr he's a monster, and I want the best for that guy. I believe they're both around the same age, right? He's what, 35?
No, Dan's 31. Nate's about 35, 36.
It's not over. It's never over until they know.
No,
But
35.
There are levels, and there are classes that you have to fit in, and he looked not slow, just a step behind, or a
He
level
did.
below, or a class under Dan Ige. 50K Ige.
Not quite there.
Just not quite there. That's it. Not having to be too mean about it. Just not quite there. And that's what I'll say about that one. Very entertaining fight. I love that fight.
Very entertaining.
Um,
Definitely one of the more entertaining fights of the night.
so with
Overall fights.
like we'll get to the next fight, but for now it's going like this, right? It's like, okay, fight night's building, right? We go from Eric Anders and Mark Barrialt, and then okay, this is a better fight, Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr. Let's go on to the next, unless you have anything else. Let's go on to the
No.
next one, and that was Mike Mallet versus Adam Fugit.
Fugit. We were very casual on our pronunciations of his name.
No,
Fugit.
no,
Fugit.
Fugitt. Fugit.
What a great name. Fugit.
At home.
He got steamrolled in that fight. He got rolled by Mike Mallet. That's another Canadian fighter. He seemed to be very popular when he came out.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously it's just because he's Canadian too, but he got a massive pop when he was coming out. Young fighter, so maybe this is kind of like their up and coming possible future star that they're hoping, they got their hopes and dreams on. And if this fight has anything to say about it, he could be a pretty good contender one day. I mean, he steamrolled this guy.
I was rolling up and I kept hearing cheers from the other room, and it was like like I was just like, what's going on in here? I walked in on the TV. Side note, I saw this headline that was calling him the Canadian Connor. And
Well, that's a bit much.
it's high praise.
It's a bit much.
Same thing that they do for Ian Machado McGarry.
Everybody is the next Connor.
Yeah.
But nobody is coming in and in 2 fights fighting like top 15 guys like Connor did.
And they're not selling out like Connor did.
They're not selling out. Like Connor, for all that he's done since his title reigns, when he was on top, the dude was insanely good. So, insane.
Do you think that's a wash? Because when Connor was coming up, he was getting like, dude, he was getting talks of like Ali. He was getting talks of the greats, like trash talking wise, and then he was going out in there and proving himself. These guys, they can't talk like him. I don't believe them. Like
no one can talk like, no one's got that confidence. Like, the first Dustin Poirier fight, Dustin admitted to being very nervous and in his head because of the way Connor talks. And Connor wasn't even like, back then, Connor wasn't very malicious yet.
No,
he was just
straight up.
He was just, I'm gonna beat your little pea head.
Call him a pea head.
And I missed that Connor. That Connor was the Connor that everyone loved. Not back to Mike Mallet.
Well, you're not going to be ruthless. You're not going to be ruthless enough to be Connor. You're Canadian. No. You're this nice Superman looking dude. Kid's handsome, dude.
He's a good looking guy.
Can we what?
But can we stop all the Connor
comparisons
references? Yeah, like Mike's not a Canadian Connor. Patty is not Connor.
Liverpool Connor.
Ian Gary,
the closest thing, but
he's a good fighter. He's not Connor. Can we stop it? Not everybody's gonna be Connor.
I think that they are itching for the next one. They're itching for.
They are, because Connor. I mean, look at all the money he's made them, and inevitably, someone might come along and be the next Connor as far as selling pay-per-views is concerned. But
do you think we'll see it coming without comparisons?
Probably not. The second it starts to feel like it, they'll make the comparisons.
Or do you think we'll see something brand new? Like, even though they'll compare him to Connor and be like,
that would be cool. You know, I don't know what that would be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that looks like, but it'd be cool to see what the next big superstar in the UFC is.
Agreed. Agreed.
It'd be interesting.
Poor,
Um,
poor Fugget. You know, like I said, another situation I would not want to be in is fighting a Canadian in Canada. It's not. It's fighting a Brazil or a Brazilian in Brazil. Which you know me. You know who I am.
I know you.
I'm not going to Brazil.
No, you're not.
No.
I think uh, that's enough of this fight.
Is that? Are we on to the people's main event?
The people's main event, boy, my boy Charlie Olives made it look easy Saturday night. Easy against a man that was on an 8-fight winning streak. That's nuts.
Played some bottom game. He played some ground game on the bottom. Just I wouldn't even say letting Beneil exhaust himself, but literally being like,
You could.
I go,
Benil didn't land a single one of those shots.
Charles is just too evasive. He's too good on the bottom. Those jiu-jitsu guys, a lot of them, they wanna sit on their butt and scoot over and like come into my guard, and then they get whacked because they never have punches thrown at them, or they have
Right.
little combat jiu-jitsu slaps. It's like, no, dude, if I'm in the octagon on top of you, I'm gonna be raining down hellfire.
Charles is next level when it comes to the jiu-jitsu in the
bombs.
UFC.
Yeah.
He may not be the best outside of the UFC when it comes to strictly jiu-jitsu, but when it comes to, you know how people say MMA wrestling?
Yeah.
I feel like Charles might be the best MMA jiu-jitsu guy there is.
I can't argue with that. His
It's yeah,
transitions, his punching during,
it's not. It's just it's so impressive. Benil is a great fighter,
yeah,
and he got put down in round one.
finished. And it wasn't. I don't think it was. I don't
Finished.
think it was very controversial.
No, Charles was clean. Charles could have fought later that night.
Another Beneil.
Another Benil.
Yeah, and I thought Beneil was ready. I didn't pick him,
I did too.
but I thought he
I
was
thought
ready.
that was going to be a lot more competitive, and maybe, maybe 9 out of 10 times it is more competitive, right? Maybe this was the one really non-competitive fight that would have happened between these two, but it was impressive.
I
It was
agree.
really impressive.
What are your thoughts on the finishing transition when he's just standing there in front of Charles? Charles throws this right high kick, I believe, smacks Beneil on the wrist arm
Yeah,
area, and it still gets through.
it's
Like,
just there's so much power. That's so impressive because he blocked it,
got his hand
but
up in time,
it didn't fucking matter.
and just you saw him on Queer Street, or you saw him wobbled. I don't know if you can say that first one anymore. You saw him wobbled, and then you see punches thrown. He's up against the cage. His knee kind of gives out. He's fighting for his life to get in any good position. And when you have a mosquito of a Charlie Olives just on you, just on you, dude.
He really is. When he smells that blood, it it's over. Every time he's hurt somebody, he pounces so fast. There is no hesitation in ending the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Chandler, Justin,
Dustin,
Dustin,
you can't help but
Benil, he just overwhelms these people.
you can't
And
help but
it's
root for the guy.
he's so likable. Spoke a little English for the first time.
Speaking of Mike Mallet, how about the pop for little Charlie Olives, dude?
He's that dude is loved right now. I
Pre
think
and
it's well
post fight.
deserved.
Yeah, pre and post fight. He
Well
celebrated.
deserved.
Why
And
do you
like I
think that
said,
is?
I I mean he's just so likable. He came from nothing. He had some, they always talk about his early days in the UFC,
Mm-hmm.
kind of where's his heart, a
Quitter.
lot of losses, quitter. He took that and he rattled off like an 8 fight win streak to get to the title fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he finally got there, he looked dominant. And he's always very gracious in victory. Um,
He's a
just a likable dude.
fighter, dude. He's a fighter. And he
He's a
goes out there and he
fighter.
fights. He puts his
I
body
I
on the
will
line.
every Charles fight I want to watch because it's just man, the only fight that was really poor looking was Islam, but like just like I said just now about the Benil fight,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that was the 1 out of 9 or 1 out of 10 that was bad for Charles for whatever reason. I think we'll see that. I think we see Charles versus Islam again.
Before Islam Volk.
I don't know.
Well, because Volk's got his hands busy with Yair.
I think it's sketched.
I feel like he steamrolls Yair.
Yeah, he's fighting next month. Not even July 7th. We'll be talking about that soon enough. But if scheduling, it depends on scheduling. I really think it does.
Well, they're saving Islam for Abu Dhabi. For sure, saving Islam for Abu Dhabi.
When is that?
October. Same thing with the Usman Chimaev.
Either of these guys could be ready by October.
Agreed. But with the momentum, Volkanovski could do some pretty gnarly stuff on the 7th, you said, or the 8th?
7th or 8th. I think it's the 7th, but that weekend.
Could do some really gnarly stuff to Yair. I don't feel like it's going to be as impressive as the opponent that Charles Oliveira beat this last weekend.
No.
Yair's great. He's not on the win streak that Benil was on. Yair's great. He's not. Charles was falling off where Benil was rising up, and so you had that time period where it was just like they were meeting, and whoever was going to win was going to get the position of the other.
Yeah.
Volk is on top of the world. Lost to Islam, yeah, but it's definitely not how Charles lost to him. And then you have Yair, which is good. He's the interim champ. Shout out Viva la Mexico. But it's not in a place to where like they're going to switch, which if Yair pulls off the win against Volkanovski, I don't want to see Yair versus Islam. I don't.
No, that wouldn't go well.
So I think Islam's next opponent will be Charles Oliveira in Abu Dhabi in October. I feel like in that fight, Charles was right. You got, 10% of that. The Charles that we saw Saturday night, that wasn't the one versus Islam. I don't know who that guy was. But if that guy shows up, the one from Saturday, if he shows up in Abu Dhabi, I'd be kind of worried for Islam.
That was a I think I said it in the pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
Charles had something to prove Saturday night.
Yeah.
And he came out and did it. He was let down by his previous performance. He knows he's better than that. And he came out. He showed out. He showed that he should be next in line for Islam. But the next month and a half is going to be very interesting for that whole division because Volk does fight next, but then right after that is Justin Dustin. So there's going to be a lot of talk about the light heavyweight. Islam was even talking about moving up, but
lightweight.
What did I say?
Light heavyweight, John Jones, 205.
I think I've done that multiple times now.
No, the champion has a name, and it's Charles Oliveira.
Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. Is that your favorite Brazilian?
Hands down. You know,
so, it's probably the only one you like.
Well, the magic, the almost tears that came to my eyes when he started speaking English.
It was cute.
And
it's so sweet.
Because that's my biggest pet peeve with these fighters. It's fine if it's your debut versus your 5th fight.
Right.
But when you start to gain momentum and popularity and I want the title, tell us that. You know who you're talking to. It is a worldwide thing, but most of your market is going to be Dublin, England, USA, Canada.
I feel like
Canada.
As far as a language is concerned, I feel like Portuguese to English is got to be one of the harder transitions.
It's definitely the one where you can tell, like, oh, you're Brazilian, huh?
Yeah, Portuguese is such an intense sounding
I
language.
want to fight. I believe in myself. No. But seeing that guy, the translator, lose his job in real time, it was beautiful.
um, yeah, we do need to move on to the main event.
Let's go.
I mean, while there is not a lot to talk about of the fight, there's a lot of fallout and stuff to talk about around this fight. This fight went exactly how we predicted.
You talking about Nunes?
Exactly. Yeah, Nunes and Irene Aldana.
Gross.
This was not competitive.
No.
This was a sparring session
This is
for
bag work.
Amanda.
This is bag work.
This was easy, light work. 196. What? That's total strikes. Here's the significant strikes. 142 landed to 41.
Now,
And Irene only attempted 143.
you said 41. One of the 41 was a clean right hand. And you could even tell, like, did you see it? I think it was round 1.
Yes. There was a time where Amanda got hurt early in that fight.
She turned all the way around. It was like
That was it.
It
There
was
was a
like,
split second where like, are we about to watch? It didn't feel as significant as like when Julianna started
no.
piecing her up, but like you're like, that hurt. But then it didn't matter because that was it.
Which one was it? Was it Ultron, Age of Ultron, where Iron Man slams the elevator on the Hulk? And he's like,
I
going
think so.
down, slams it. And that's what that punch was. It was a nice right hand. And
It was good.
Nunes just,
That was
and then she turns around.
she ate that shit. Dude, that was Irene's only shot to win that fight all night long. Amanda dominated her. 6 takedowns. Brutalized her on the ground for the last 2 rounds. The first 3 rounds were kind of like Amanda's just piecing her up. But then the championship rounds got kind of nasty.
It got to the point where it was like, all right, what is your coach telling you? Like, what? You go back to the corner for round 3. You're down 3-0. What are you?
You got to do something.
You gotta go. You gotta go. And so she goes out there, hands high, not even clinched, just hands high.
She had this like really high, and it just didn't matter.
Not one bit. Because did you see the jab slipping through? Just fucking jab.
Yes,
jab.
just
What was that? And then you can't be in Amanda's range because she's gonna jab, set up the counter hand, or the backhand rather. It was nasty. It was a nasty performance. It wasn't.
This was a dominant performance.
You think she could have finished her?
She probably could have.
Why didn't she go for it? You think she did and couldn't, or do you think she just decided to cruise?
Maybe she just wanted to have a little fun. Knowing what she probably knew going into the fight, what she announced shortly thereafter, maybe she just decided to kind of show all the facets of her game. She took her down and dominated her in the last 2 rounds. Maybe she's like, this is my final piece of work. You're going to see everything.
I'm leaving on a 10-8 round.
Yeah.
I'm going out on top. 10-8
It was
round.
50-43. There was 2 50-43 scorecards.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's 2 10-8s.
That's gross. That's
It's
so gross.
Disgusting.
So she wins the fight. And
Dominates.
She's calling. She speaks really good English for a Brazilian.
Very good.
Is like calling for the cut man, and I'm like,
the
what's
second
going on?
she was like holding her gloves, and like as soon as I saw her hold her gloves, you kind of knew what was coming. One of the greatest of all time retires.
Mm-hmm.
The GOAT, the women's GOAT. It's not questioned.
No.
It is what it is. The women's GOAT retired. She probably could have kept fighting.
Probably what it will forever be.
It will take a lot. It will take a lot for some woman to bypass Amanda.
Yeah.
It will take a
Who's second place?
monumental feat.
Who's second place right now? Valentina?
Valentina
And Amanda has wins over her. Wins over her.
wins. One controversial. Had she not lost to Alexa Grasso months ago,
Be closer.
it'd be a little closer.
Mm-hmm.
You could, and in fact, I think that loss to Alexa, Amanda said, is I think there was maybe some small interest in the final rematch between them two, and that loss, she said, I don't think I don't think it makes sense anymore.
Yeah.
She wasn't disrespectful, but she was like, I just don't think it makes sense.
Speaking of disrespect, she's retiring. Beer, dancing with her kids,
Having a good time.
having a great time. The hater in the front row, Julianna Pena, who she was supposed to fight.
She's boy, she came out on an Ariel Hawani show
Yeah.
and showed her ass. Some of those disrespectful comments.
Dude, in the crowd, she was like, "Shut up! You're not Anderson. Don't compare yourself to Anderson Silva." Like, shut up, dude.
Juliana, I liked Juliana, but there was a comment on a Instagram post, and it's pretty accurate. And it's kind of funny. She's becoming the Dylan Dennis of women's MMA.
Anything to get eyes and ears, I get it, but
She she said she wanted to storm the cage while she was. You know how disgustingly disrespectful that would have been had she stormed the cage while Amanda's retiring,
started stomping on her belts and gloves and shit.
bro. She said Amanda's taking my moment. No, that is not your moment. I don't know how you thought that was your moment. That's Amanda's moment. Yes, you beat her in the first fight,
Mm-hmm.
which was a massive shock to the world.
Massive shock
But
to
in
Amanda.
yeah, the second fight, you had absolutely nothing for her.
No shot.
No shot. And likely the third fight would have been a lot of the same.
And that's why I don't need it. Do you feel like you
I
need
don't need it. It
Pena
would have I
Nunes
think I
3?
would have rather have seen Pena Saturday night than Irene, because that
Sure.
would have probably been a fun rivalry fight to go out on,
Yeah.
but we don't need it.
I would have rather saw Amanda Nunes fight Nate Landwehr. So just why, you know,
That would have been a fun fight.
another disrespectful thing that happened may or may not be disrespectful. Can we talk
This
about
wasn't really. I don't think this was disrespectful. I think
my boy John Anik?
my boy John Anik with a classic Anik quote,
I told you
and
it was gonna
even
happen. I told you it was gonna happen.
you call it, if you look in the bio of our previous episode, it literally says, "Why is John Anik so out of pocket?" And he goes, he even says, "I know a lot of people will hate me for this kind of stuff, but it's Amanda's eggs inside of her this time."
Right.
I know what he was
Amanda's
trying to
arm
say.
is around Nina, celebrating. Yeah, family.
I
Yeah.
know what he was going for there. He was like, this child will be biologically Amanda's, and it's
Great.
just such a funny way to just say that.
Eggs are inside of Nina. What even, dude?
Can we find out who the sperm donor is? Can we
That's
get that info?
that's what I'm saying.
Like,
I
she should be like jerking off like Charles. Could you imagine a Charles and Amanda child?
that's so scary. That's so
Most
scary.
dominant
Dude.
fighter, doesn't matter what gender they come out as, they would dominate.
Overall, a card where I didn't feel like I wasted my time. It was a good card, you know.
It was fun. Like I said, if it not paying for it was, I love watching all the fights.
Yeah, fights are
I
fights.
just can't always validate spending $75-$80 on a card
For
unless I'm
what?
like splitting it 3-4 ways.
Yeah, but
This
for
one
what?
I wouldn't have even wanted to split 3-4 ways.
No, no.
But if it was a free Fox fight,
Or ESPN.
ESPN, throw it on regular ESPN.
I think that does it for the UFC 289, huh?
I mean, that covers everything.
And there's
I think we
no
sliced
news.
it.
There's no
The
news.
autopsy.
There's no news.
There's
you can tell me.
no news. in the MMA world at all right now.
Okay.
It's quiet.
Okay.
I think it's time for memes.
Time for the MMA memes of the week. Kyle, yours is up first. We're going to go breaking. America threatened to drop Chris Barnett on Moscow if they don't stop their invasion on Ukraine. This guy. Elaborate.
Shout out
Yeah.
Octagon News because they have some of the funniest fake news memes. Chris Barnett, such a funny dude. What's his nickname? Big Boy. It's not Big Boy.
Definitely not Big Boy. Biggie Boy is Jairzinho Rosenstrike.
That's Roy's strike. This meme makes me think Big Boy. Could you imagine just Chris Barnett falling out of the sky and landing on Moscow? Just lands on Putin and just like fucking Eddie Gordo kicks him and kills him.
Poor guy. That dude's athleticism is so underrated.
It's nuts. He's
nuts.
so athletic. Capoeira, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Capoeira.
Capoeira.
Okay.
Capoeira. That's right. Capoeira's right.
Brazilian.
We're casual when it comes to anything non-English.
And I don't even know English. I don't even know all of English.
I don't.
So I like that one. That one was good.
What was yours? I don't know if I've seen it.
I sent it to you.
Where?
In Discord. I can send it to you on another one.
Oh, okay. I'll pull it up.
Yours is good. I'm not saying mine's better. Mine's not even in the form of a meme.
Bruh.
But these fans at a meet and greet, you could see them like at the beginning of the video, they're taking their shirt or their hoodies off and stuff. And they meet John Jones wearing a shirt with his mugshot on it. Now, can we just talk for a quick second, about the balls you have to have?
That's some balls.
To do that? Like, you don't know how he's going to react. Is he going to react
No,
like
because if John got pissed, he could kill you.
Both of them. There were two of them.
Easy.
That guy is so big in this photo. Like, he doesn't look that big, but you can just tell. And he's just playing with it.
He's big.
He's having a good time, dude.
He rolls with the punches for all the stuff he gets. Remember the guy that screamed at one of the press conferences, "Do it on crack."
Yeah.
And he just laughs.
This guy.
He rolls with the punches, which I guess you have to.
Chris Barnett, Johnny Bones, dude. Good meme, dude. I like that.
Good
Shout
memes.
out to Octagon News. Shout out to John.
Octagon. Shout out John.
Shout out those guys that did that, dude.
Shout out those guys.
That's a hard mugshot, dude. That mugshot goes hard, and I think he even signed it. I'm pretty sure that in the corner of the guy on the left, I'm pretty sure John Jones signed it.
That's funny. Shout out Amanda.
Jesus Christ. Wake up, Robert.
Shout out whoever just called him.
Is that an alarm?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, dude. Shout out to UFC. Shout out to MMA. Shout out to my fucking beautiful co-host, Kyle.
Shout out to the Couch Casuals.
Shout us out. It's been some long form content. We're sitting in
Trying to shorten the shows. We just have a lot to talk about.
Imagine if we had news.
We have so much. We love this sport and we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We have so much to say.
We should. If you have a friend that likes MMA or the UFC, if you have a friend that does UFC, I love that. I love it when people.
Do you do UFC? If you do UFC, watch the Couch Casuals. We do UFC.
Couch Casuals do UFC.
We do UFC.
Unlike any other.
Like, this is the best UFC podcast on the airwaves today. Unless you're like Ariel Helwani.
That's a new show. It's a new show. Not a podcast.
Can't sleep on Anik and Florian. That's the one I like to watch.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when John Anik can talk like a regular person, I'll listen to him all day. But when he's
I'll listen to John Anik all day, any day. For anybody that has not been employed by the UFC ever, we have the best show.
Yeah, 100%. And this is
top tier.
When you're sitting on the couch with the Couch Casuals, you best believe that we know what we're talking about.
Dude, one day we'll be so big we'll have like a couch meet where like we watch a fight with a fan.
That would be dope.
That would be that'd be like we've made it.
Shout out to the future fan that is. Shout out to the UFC.
Whoever it is.
Shout out to MMA. Like, subscribe, comment. Talk some
Comment.
shit. If we
Talk,
got some shit
ask us
wrong,
questions.
yeah.
Yeah, if you don't agree with us, that's cool. We're not right half the time.
No.
If you like it, say something. If you got a question, if there's something you specifically want us to talk about, if you want us to talk about that big news,
We might.
If you ask for it, we might talk about it.
We might. But no. I love you, Kyle. Shout out to Kyle.
Love you. Thank you, everybody.
Shout out to the NBA and shout out to the Miami Heat. And we will see you probably before the breakdown of another card. Yeah, we'll see you in a little bit.
Soon enough.
All right, that's it. We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.